Hello, it's Anthony Chadwick from the Webinar Vet, welcoming you to another episode of VETchat. I'm really fortunate being able to have conversations with really inspirational figures on the podcast, people who build up my hope supplies and so on. And today's guest is no exception. It's Laura Binnie, who was the winner of our Veterinary Green Personality of the Year in 2024. I was apologising to Laura for my gruff, husky voice, and she told me that her husband had the same scratchy voice and had COVID. I did test myself yesterday, and I am negative. So for those of you listening, hopefully you can't pick up any computer viruses from me, and you will live to tell the tale. So, Laura, over to you. First of all, thank you so much. I know how busy you are, how many hats and how many plates you spin, but we've finally tracked you down and got you on the podcast. So really, really pleased to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Well, thanks for having me, Anthony. This is a really nice, great opportunity to get to talk about what we do and all the great stuff that we've achieved. It's exciting.
Well, it's fascinating because, of course, Laura, I know you've always had a fascination with environmental issues, but of course you've gone on such a journey over the last couple of years. Perhaps just so that people kind of know your story and where you've come from, you can perhaps tell us a little bit about, what made you get more involved, as a vet into this whole environmental area to get to the stage where now, of course, you're working as the sustainability lead for XL Vets, which might also be worth just explaining what XL Vets is to those people listening from wherever who maybe don't know the name and don't know what you're about. So yeah, if you can do that, that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So my own personal sustainability journey started many years ago. I've always been an environmentally friendly, conscious kind of person, but it wasn't really until we had kids that it kind of made me sit up and take notice, and think, crikey, what are we going to leave for these children and these people to, to inherit? So that's when I really started to think, what can we do? What more can we be doing? And I think it was during one of the many lockdowns of when COVID was doing the thing, and we were getting through our PPE at such an alarming rate. It was horrifying to see, and it just made me realize, gosh, we are so wasteful. And okay, there was a good reason for it, and we needed to keep safe and what have you. But it just made me realize there was more that we could be doing. And coincidentally, at the same time, our managing director David Black had also been thinking he wanted to do more. He had already co-founded Vet Sustain in 2019, and we sort of came together and discussed what Paragon could be doing. The Paragon board was behind the startup of a sustainability project or plan or whatever you want to call it, and they appointed me as the lead of that project. And then we quickly developed a green group of really great, very strongly motivated and brilliant people on our green group at Paragon, very active and passionate about sustainability. And we've kind of gone from strength to strength, really, just starting with the easy wins, the low hanging fruit, as they say, and we've gone on to the big, more challenging wins, which is great to report. And one day a week I wear a different hat. So I'm a vet at Paragon and the lead on the sustainability project, but also one day a week I work for XL Vets, which is a large group of independent veterinary practices that have come together to share expertise, knowledge, support each other. There's a great ops team behind XL Vets that puts together resources and organised meetings and basically keeps the wheels going. So I am part of that team one day a week, where I provide sustainability support to all the other 67 member practices. And it's a great job. I absolutely love my Tuesdays, where I work from home, and I feel that we can do so much good with such a weight, such a number of practices behind us, that even small changes, if we all make them, we can make a bigger impact. So at Excel Vets, we formed a green group. We have, I think, nearly representation from every practice on that group, which is brilliant. So there's at least one person that's checking in and aware of what's going on. And really early on, we identified all our priorities. We want to be looking at renewable energy. We want to be encouraging our practices to be looking at renewables, EVs as well. We have a lot of farm and equine practices as part of the Excel Vet group, and we are trying to advocate and champion those practices that have made the switch to EV, so that we can make it less scary for the others to kind of go, well, if they can do it, so can we. We also realise that anaesthesia is massively impactful on the planet, and kicks out a lot of greenhouse gas every time we do a volatile anaesthetic. So we've been looking at that and thinking how we can reduce our impact from there. And the newest project I'm working on is looking at greening our operating theatres, and what changes we can do to make a bigger impact. So there's so much scope, and it's such a brilliant supportive group to work with, and there is so much enthusiasm. It doesn't feel like work for me. It really doesn't. I love it.
I think that's the nice thing, isn't it? If you feel it's a really, the business is purpose centered and that you're trying to make a real difference in the world, with animals, but also with the planet, then it, as you say, it feels more like a hobby than work, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really
And
does. It
I'm the
really
same
does.
with
Yeah.
the stuff that I'm doing. Um, yeah, I think there's a couple of interesting points that I'd like to sort of just maybe ask you to, maybe expand on. That whole idea of circular economy and, that waste during COVID obviously some of the things just didn't work. And so that was a waste if you produce it and then it doesn't work. But actually, how do we have that hierarchy of waste management, which starts from kind of actually, do we really need to use this? How can we
Yeah.
actually refuse it or rethink?
Yeah.
How we can repurpose things. And then obviously recycling comes in. And then finally, things like put into incinerators and to go into landfill. So give us a few examples of maybe some of those things that you've done, one in Paragon, but obviously happy for you to use other examples from other people in the group as you're now kind of getting stories from all over, which must be
Yeah.
really exciting to hear as well.
It's exciting, but it's so inspirational as well. All these practices that are just trying to do their best.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, a great example of circularity that we've just started to embark on is incorporating Sage Tech into our anaesthetics. So Sage Tech, for those that aren't aware, is an anaesthetic capture technology where the expired anaesthetic gas, instead of going into the atmosphere and adding to the greenhouse gas effect, we are capturing it in a canister, and there is a vet dock on the wall that is constantly weighing that canister, and when it gets full we will send it away with our wholesaler, and they will receive an empty one. Now the gas, the captured gas, will go to the depot, the Sage Tech depot, where it is released from the canister and stored until the VMD approval comes through, that they get to use that back in, turn that back into reusable anesthetic gas, anesthetic liquid, sorry. And that is a brilliant example of circularity in action, isn't it? And I think, in terms of reducing a practice's carbon footprint, you can be looking at knocking 20% off your footprint just by adopting this technology. And actually we're so excited about this technology that we're doing our own Excel Vet version of a trial, where there are 5 practices that are involved in trying this technology, just for
Mm.
ourselves, for our own experience and understanding of how it works. And then the idea is that we will sit down with the rest of the membership and just tell them how, honestly, genuinely, this is how we found it, and these are this is the things that we found easy, and these are the things that we didn't, and this is the reaction and the response that our clients and our staff gave us. So we find at Excel Vets that we really do have a bit of a hive mentality, and that if we can try and test something and genuinely give that feedback, then that really does go a long way. We are also aware that there are so many reusable alternatives that we could be using in practice. We used to buy our purified water in big plastic vats, horrible big thick plastic that was just adding to our waste streams. And so we just decided that we would install a water purifier. So we really have done away with a lot of waste there. Simple changes like in investing in reusable incontinence pads. We choose when we use them carefully. The nurse is not keen on scooping vomit off them and then putting them through the wash, but they do have a place in our practice. So yeah, that's another example of just trying to be more
Mm.
reusable rather than single use, thrown away, add it to the landfill or incinerator. It just doesn't fit with us and our culture. So we are always looking
Mm.
for sort of lower impact item
I
procurement,
know
what have
some
you.
of these things obviously make sense from an environmental perspective, but I think one of the things sometimes people say is, well, that's all well and good, but it's going to add to my costs.
Mm,
And clearly, and I was speaking to Vanessa Nicola down in Wiley Vets this year. She was talking also about the incontinence pads, and it saved them thousands of pounds over the year because they're, not using them or using very few of them. The Sage Tech stuff obviously is amazing, and we talk about it a lot. I mean, they should be so pleased with us because we give them so much free publicity. But it's a great concept and a great idea. With some of these things, have you got to be prepared to spend the money up front to get the money back?
yeah.
Or is this just a case of, I think once we can actually recycle the isoflurane or the
Mm,
sevoflurane, clearly that just sounds as if it should be cheaper. But at the moment, is that is that an added cost into the practice actually having the Sage Tech machines, or does it work out well from a financial perspective as well as a green perspective? Because clearly, Laura, you and I, we'd probably do things because it's the right thing to do, but not everybody is like
yeah.
that, and obviously they need to see a financial reason to do it, and then we'll get much bigger implementation of things if there is a financial reason for doing it. So can you just, maybe without giving away too many figures, or but whatever you're comfortable with, how does that work, with Excel Vets and with Paragon and yourself?
Yeah, it is a consideration. And yeah, obviously, like you say, Anthony, there is a cost involved. We feel as a practice, and I know that the other practices that are on our Excel Vet
Mm.
trial also feel that it's something that we are prepared to do. We are prepared to pay that cost for this technology, so that we know that we are reducing our footprint. But it's also something, it's a really good publicity point as well, that you can tell your clients very proudly
Yeah.
that you are using this technology and it is reducing their pet's paw print. And a lot of people will really buy into that. And I think they've got to the point now where they sort of expect it from us. We've been talking about sustainability at Paragon for over 5 years. And I think that if there was something more that we could do, we would be doing it. And I think
Yeah.
it's a great team bonding exercise as well, that our staff, even front of house and nurses and everybody is really excited about this technology, and it goes a long way. But yes, you're right, Anthony, there is a cost, but we also do a lot of other things that saves us money because we are more sustainable. So I think this will sort of balance out in the fullness of time. Interestingly, my colleague David Black and a colleague Gina Davidson, we've sat down and crunched some numbers, and we have managed to show and demonstrate that being more sustainable saves you money. We've done the business case for sustainability on a spreadsheet, and it does save you money. So you can plow that money back into your business with more sustainable alternatives, which I think is great. It's a win-win really for me and for the business.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So obviously, you and I, we do green things because we think it's the right thing to do. But if you're doing it and one is saving some money, fantastic. But even if it doesn't save money, what you're saying is there's a PR element for the practice. It's not the reason you're
Yeah.
doing it, but it's
Mm,
a side
mm,
effect of that. But also, perhaps, I think, people who work in businesses that seem to be bothered with this, and we're a caring profession. I would imagine it also helps with raising morale within the practice and maybe even helping to reduce, churn of the team as well.
yeah, absolutely. I think it really does help bond the team, particularly with something quite exciting like this, that you can actually see it, something tangible that's on the walls. And I think, when, when we were watching the percentage rise on the canisters, it was all woo, very exciting.
Yeah,
And that's great. It helps to bond that team, and for us to all feel actually we do this because it's the right thing to do, and not because we're gonna save a heap of money, or someone we're doing better than someone down the road. It isn't. It's just because we think it's the right thing to do, and it fits with our culture.
and the values. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just interestingly, you were talking also then about solar, and it's one of my big areas that I just think, as a veterinary practice, I've had solar on my roof for the last 19 years.
Wow.
First thermal, and then PVs, and then more recently, I put a battery in. And, from a decarbonisation point of view, and this is in my own house, I'm trying to get them onto a practice building that I own, but that's been a struggle. Was talking to Paula at Synergy, and they've had amazing results with their solar panels as well. Really positive PR, but actually, as an example of where it makes you money, you probably get a 20% return on your investment, which is, you don't get that if you put the money in the bank, do you? So
No.
actually putting money into solar to me seems like just a no-brainer. And
Mm,
yet,
mm,
one in my own street, I'm the only house that has solar on.
mm,
But also, with practices, I can see that there are more practices doing it, but I still think it's very early
mm.
days. How do we quicken that process up? Because it's all well and good talking about it, but we're in this decisive decade. I just read a report today about 1.5 degrees centigrade being unlikely, and actually 2 degrees was where we should be looking at.
Mm.
Surely we should be really pushing on that. I know you've got solar on your roof. How do we get that message home to people that this is really
Mm.
important? But we also understand that within a busy practice, it's hard to necessarily find the time to look at these important, but if you like, not urgent as in next week projects.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Because everybody is so busy, and we have so many other challenges that come along our desks, or our into our inboxes, and we have to prioritize. And I think if somebody can do the hard work for us, and somebody can do the research and come to you and say, right, this is all you have to do to make
Yeah.
this work, then I think people would be more likely to do it. Also, there'll be the constraint. There'll be a lot of practices that are rented, which you can't go putting on solar panels, as far as as I'm aware, on someone else's building, unless they want you to. So that will be a constraint for those guys. But for the most part, I think a lot of them will be owned. And is it not happening because there's this perceived amount of work involved? I know we put ours on. We were replacing a roof, and we decided, right, now is the time to put these on. The roof, was brand new, so we have the integral panels in there, so that it looks nice and clean and sharp. And that was quite an easy decision for us to make. However, if you're not replacing a roof and you think you might be replacing it in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, are you going to want to put solar panels on it? There are a lot of things
Mm.
holding people back, and I totally understand that. I think we're very busy. We're very busy people, and
Mm.
it's just somebody needs to make that easier for everybody, I think, and maybe even some grants wouldn't go amiss.
I mean, we're obviously talking a lot about carbon there as well. I know you're now part of Vet Sustain,
Mm.
also the the Greener Veterinary Practice Work Group. Where are the sort of key areas that you think practices can make a difference? What are the two or three things that they could do tomorrow that are easy to do? It's not complicated, like maybe putting solar panel onto a rented roof, that they should be doing tomorrow just as good practice.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I think the best way from my own small animal point of view, the best way to reduce a carbon from our business, from a small animal point of view, is to really invest in the preventative healthcare. So if you can prevent your animals having to come in for something that was preventable, then that is definitely better.
Hmm.
Utilize your brilliant nurses. We have a lot of nurse clinics at Paragon. We have weight management clinics, which can help in so many ways to reduce the footprint, but also the well-being and the longevity of the pets. Obviously,
Yeah.
vaccination plays a massive role. Dental prevention, making sure that you're giving the right advice at the off. When the client comes to you with their puppies or kittens, this is where you need to be really instilling this information. And if we can really invest and big up these clinics, then I think that would go a long way to reducing a practice's, or at least the client's, footprint. The easy wins, the low hanging fruit, the switching to LED light bulbs, the switch off stickers, your antibiotic amnesties. These things really, they seem small, but they do add up, and they can really help. I think anesthesia for us was a big win. Not just switching to Sage Tech, but going low flow, investing in
Yeah.
Humphrey aids, retraining the team, looking at our analgesia, looking at our pre-med protocols, looking at sedation versus volatile anesthetics. All of these things can have a massive, massive impact, and it doesn't really take that much work to get to that point. Mileage is huge. We're a mixed practice in a rural part of Cumbria. Mileage is always the biggest part of our carbon calculator. Absolutely. So if we can think of ways that we are driving more efficiently, we're sending the vets on more considered routes, rather than just sending anybody. We're sending the closest vet, and electrifying some of the fleet, not all of the fleet, because
Yeah.
we need to have that reliability. These are things, I know we're sort of getting into more expensive territory here, Anthony, but I think we certainly, there are things that practices can do that will instantly change the outcomes quite quickly.
Hmm. One of my worries when we talk about the climate crisis, I don't like the terminology, so I talk about us having an environmental crisis, although
Hmm.
obviously temperatures are going up. And for me, there is obviously the carbon, and then there's obviously waste in all of its forms. Biodiversity seems to be the little brother that gets forgotten about. I know it's a passion of yours as well. When you won our award, one of the things that the judges were so impressed with was you have some space at the side of the practice that you're turning into a wood. Obviously, that will help carbon as well, but it's very much more than that with the biodiversity, isn't it? And I see it in a very small way in my very small garden, which I do let run a little bit wild. But I'm so pleased, and I talk about it a lot. One of the reasons I wanted to be a vet was because of sparrows. It was one of the earlier birds that I came across when I was living at home. The sparrows would be twittering in the trees outside my house. 50, 60 years later, we've lost 30 million sparrows because we've made everywhere too tidy. We've used insecticides and so on. So the biodiversity side is so important. Talk us a little bit about the wood and all the benefits. I'm sure also the mental health benefits that the team must feel if they can. Do they get involved in the project as well?
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, how long have you got, Anthony? I could talk about this all day. Um, our woodland is one of the things I'm most proud about with our on our sustainability journey. I think it was a real labour of love. It took a lot of planning. a lot of planning and a lot of work to get the funding. So we did apply to the they call it the UCO, so English Woodland Creation Offer, and we applied to that, and we earmarked the fields that we wanted to plant up. We had to consider how they were going to tie in with existing hedgerows and existing woodland, so that we could create the sort of wildlife corridors that was needed, to sort of really benefit the habitat and the wildlife. We engaged the staff really early on. We told them what the plans were, what we would, if they had any suggestions, what they would like to see. We let them choose the trees that they wanted to plant, so that we've gone for just native broadleaf trees, and we have sneaked some Scots pine in there as well, but mostly they are native broadleaves. And so we had a planting day where the staff came along, and planted their trees with their families. The kids came along. We've marked the trees with our names, so that we can watch them grow over the years. And I think that really instills a sense of ownership and pride
Mm.
in the woodland. And I think that's so important. The kids can grow up coming back to visit this woodland over the years and bring their own children, and it's just so lovely. We have also engaged a lot of schools with this project as well. We presented one of the local schools with a biodiversity drawing competition, and we said, I gave them a talk on what biodiversity is and why it's important and how we need to protect it. And I said to them, right, go away and draw for me a picture about what biodiversity means to you. And the amazing pictures that came back, they were brilliant. So we chose some winners, and we have printed those winners onto the information board at the walk, at the woodland walk. So we're giving permissive access to locals as well to use our woodland and enjoy it, much like we do. And it was just so good to see the kids. They came along for a field trip end of last year, and they just really enjoyed it. They had a great time. But it was so good to see that they could see their drawings on this board, and they were really proud of their classmates for doing that. So it has so many benefits to our mental health, to the environment, to the soil, to the air, to the water, for carbon sequestration. There are so many benefits to building, planting a woodland. And it's small. It's only 3 hectares, but it's going to be really beautiful in the landscape when they grow up, and you can see them from miles around. It's something I'm really proud of.
And it was lovely having won the award. I think we gave you some money to help with developing it a bit further as well. So it's been really nice to be
Yeah,
a tiny part of the journey as well with you. And I must come up and have a look at them.
yeah. Please do, Auntie. That would be lovely. I'd love to show you around. It'd be great.
Laurie, you are a big inspiration to me. The stuff that you're doing, you're very, very practical. You've got in there, you've looked at problems. You haven't been the sort who says, these are the problems and walked away. You've said, here are some problems, opportunities, here's what we can do about them. And I think, things like the wood, which are really unusual, but I think again must be really beneficial for the team and for the clients to see that, to have that ability to go in there. And I think it just reflects really well on the practice. I know David as well is a super guy. Just I was with him last week at the BCVA Congress. He's now BCVA president. It's a massive area that we can make such a difference on as a veterinary profession. Maybe just a final thought, a word. How do we as vets actually elevate our effect? We're doing this within our own profession, but I think we're in such a good position that we maybe should be giving advice outside, like you were doing at the school. How can we do more of that? What are maybe some ideas, for us as a profession to just be seen as part of the solution rather than maybe as part of the problem?
Yeah, I think leading by example. Trying and testing, and it doesn't take long. If you're scrolling through the investors in the environment members, a lot of vet practices are on there. Absolutely, probably more than any other profession on there. And I think, we can really advocate for these easy wins. And actually, do you know what? The more you do, the more it becomes a thing. And before you know it, you've got a green group and a project, and everybody's just really desperate to take part and have a say. I think vet practices, obviously, you know, in the One Health initiative, you know, we're sitting right at that center, aren't we? People, planet, animals. We are that one profession that ticks all of those boxes, and we can really use that as a trusted profession, where people look to us, you know, for answers and inspiration as well. And I think the more of us that are doing it, the more of us that are shouting about what we're doing and being really proud of what we're doing and what we're achieving, I think, you know, that goes a long, long way. And I think it's infectious. I think other people will catch on.
That's brilliant. Just a final one, Laura. Obviously, I know the Invest in the Environment Awards just closed, but we've got our own awards starting probably in the new year. Paragon won the Practice of the Year, I think not this year, but last year. You won the Green Vet Personality of the Year as well. Any recommendations on is it worth going in for awards? Does that help again with the practice, but also maybe with a way of seeing what you're doing and benchmarking what you're doing and seeing where you can actually do more? Is an award a good exercise maybe in those things as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone that's met me knows I'm a big fan of accreditation. Awards are brilliant. They just demonstrate your commitment even better, even further. And I think going through the accreditation process forces you to sit down and think about what you're doing, and can you be doing this better, can you be doing it more sustainably, what do you need to do, what policies do you need to change, what culture do you need to change, and instill it in your practices so that this becomes normal and everybody expects you to act this way. If you've got accreditation posters or awards on your wall, clients see this, and you know it's important to be proud of these. This, it takes a lot of work, it really does, and commitment, but people see it and they think, you know, if they care about our pets as much as they do about the environment, then this is a great practice to stay at. So from a staffing point of view, but also from a new client point of view, and retention of existing clients and staff. So yeah, I think accreditation, I can't go on about it enough. I think it's brilliant. There's so many schemes as well. The Royal College Practice Standards Environmental Sustainability Award is wonderful. That's really where we kind of cut our teeth. We were the first practice to achieve this award, and it was great. It just makes you go through a whole lot of processes to get to that, but it's good. You come out better. You come out stronger and more environmentally sustainable. Definitely.
Laura, thanks for being inspirational, for your
Yeah.
infectious nature. As I say, hopefully I've not infected anybody over the computer with my croaky throat. But I always love speaking to you. I always come away with a smile on my face as well. So thank
Oh,
you
I'm so
for all of the positive things that you're doing. And, you know, please just continue making a difference at Paragon, Excel Vets, but I mean, even bigger than that for the profession in general. So thanks for everything that you do.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. Thanks for having me on. It's been lovely.
Thanks so much. And thank you everyone for listening. I know that we keep on talking about this. You know, one of the things that somebody told me about communication was until you are bored about talking about it, you haven't talked about it enough. So I would just encourage you, if you're listening and you're going, do you know what? We just need to talk about it a bit more and decide where we start. My attitude would always be, you know, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Take that first step. You know, it might be as simple as saying to people in the practice, don't bring in, you know, single use soda bottles. That's a start. All of these things make a difference. So just encourage you. Hopefully, Laura has enthused you as much as she enthuses me to go out and try and make a difference. Hope that you can do that. But whatever, you know, really looking forward to seeing you on a podcast or a webinar very soon. Take care and have a great